Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and don't forget that the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you every week by Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there is area code 201-798-4466. And with me today is a very, very special guest in the fact that he is, without question, the only athlete that I know of in Weehawken history that earned varsity letters in 4 different sports. But he was a great basketball player, a phenomenal baseball player. He went on to play baseball at Seton Hall University. He also had a good career as a soccer player, and then gave that up to play football as a senior. So that shows his diversity. He was the 2004 Hudson Reporter Male Athlete of the Year. And the first one ever from Weehawken High School. And it's my friend Danny Lopez. Danny, how are you doing today?
How you doing, Jim? How's it going? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Great to have you. Okay, like I said, you are arguably the best all-around athlete in the history of Weehawken, and that's saying a lot because there've been a lot of athletes in the history of school, but none, I don't think, that lettered in 4 sports. Let's turn the clock back to when you were a little boy. And what was the first of all, you were born here, correct?
Correct. I was born in Hoboken. I lived in Weehawken all my life.
Okay. All right. So when you were a little boy, what was the first sport that you started to play in Weehawken?
So baseball was actually the first, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Soccer was introduced to me first. Obviously, as a cultural thing in my family, soccer was big. So I was always playing soccer, but the one actual sport I started playing first was baseball.
Okay. See, and I thought it was from doing interviews with you and everything over the year. I thought you were going to say soccer. See, that's why I was leading you into it, but then boom, you hit me with baseball. So go ahead.
So soccer was the ball. The soccer ball was the ball that was always around, but the one I actually started playing on a team first was baseball.
Okay. All right. So then, how old were you? Do you remember, like when you say if the soccer ball was always around? Do you remember how old you were when you first started playing sports and started to get, interested in sports?
Oh, yeah, I was very young. I would say about 2 years old.
2 years old, okay.
Yeah, I was about 2 years old when I started getting the soccer ball at the park with Dad and stuff like that.
Okay. And when you first started to play baseball, you said was the first organized sport. Was that T-ball you played right away?
So we actually didn't have T-ball from what I can remember.
Okay.
I remember running right into the Phillies, which my dad was coaching with my uncle and Angela Rendine were coaching the Little League Phillies team, and I remember playing there, and I was the youngest kid on the team. You know, the hat barely fit me. But that was where I went in. Kevin Callard, Chris Jodice were the ones same age as me.
Wow, what a great group. Okay.
Yeah, we started very early. And that's where it all started for me. And it was mostly my dad coaching, so that's kind of how I went into that.
All right, talk a little bit about that if you can for me, Danny. What was that like to play for your dad, and how much of an influence was Dad on you?
I mean, when we talk about my dad, he was the biggest influence in every sport that I played. And whether he knew the sport or not, he was there. So that's all that kind of mattered.
He was a presence, right?
He was the presence because I can't say he knew much about the sports. He knew enough because he played himself. He played basketball for like his work league and stuff like that. He was always a baseball Mets. Unfortunately he watched the Mets, and unfortunately I'm a Mets fan too. So, but that's the baseball.
See, I knew there was a reason why I wanted to do this podcast with you too. See, so we have something in common,
So
our beloved love for Max Scherzer. Go ahead. Right.
So he knew enough to start coaching and get me interested in those things. The one sport he obviously didn't know the most about was soccer, but just the fact that it was, he was there, and we'd take the ride home, or we'd go to the batting cages on the weekend with my uncle, whatever the case was. Just him being there every practice, every game, till I can remember.
And your uncle was there too? A lot?
My uncle was there.
All right, so let's give them both credit. Your dad's first name was
Jose.
Okay, and your uncle
Manny.
Okay, and how much of a positive influence was your uncle on you? If he's there all the time.
Let's just say I was at the Lyndhurst batting cages twice a week.
Okay.
Now, it didn't matter if it was, I didn't want to go. I was going there twice a week with Uncle Manny, renting out the cage for an hour, and it was, we're working on this. I learned this new thing from Jeter swinging. Let's do this. Like that's the extent of what they knew. They knew the game from watching it on TV, and if he could pull out little things here and there, he's like, yeah, we're gonna work on this week.
Okay.
And that was it. They were just always involved, always enjoying every minute of whether it was practice or not. And one of the things that Kevin jokes around with me a lot till this day is, we'd be practicing down at Weehawken Stadium, and he'd show up like the long walkway down if you go from like the police station down.
Right.
And he'd like be hiding behind the bushes because I'd be like, why are you showing up to practices too? I'd yell, I'd be like, Bob, come on, get out of here.
Yeah. You're embarrassing me.
Yeah. Start laughing, kind of deal. But that was just who he was. He was always involved, always there, always positive.
Yep.
Let's do this better. Let's do this. We got to work on this. And that's just how he was, and he still is today. And I thank him for that. He's been absolutely incredible. I couldn't ask for a better father.
Yeah, good deal. All right, so so what was then the second sport that you got involved with and you got to play? Could it have been basketball? Because basketball started at a young age in Weehawken, no?
So it went baseball, and then I was playing soccer in North Bergen.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was playing soccer in North Bergen regularly because we didn't really have one here.
None.
So I was playing in the rec league there. I remember playing for the Cougars, who my dad also got involved somehow coaching there too. So I was playing for the Cougars there, and shortly after, I don't even think it was that far after, I started playing rec basketball and rec football as well.
Okay,
so
wow.
That all came like one after another.
All in North Bergen, or did you play Weehawken rec?
In Weehawken.
Okay.
The only thing that was in North Bergen was soccer.
Soccer
started in North Bergen.
Okay, but everything else, all right. So, at an early age, did you love playing all three sports? Check that. Did you love playing all four sports at a young age? Did you?
If I tell you that I was playing hockey on the dead end of James Street at the same age, it didn't matter what sport it was. Whatever was there, that's what I was doing.
And you were keeping busy by playing sports, right?
That was it.
Okay.
That was it. Well, if I wasn't actually playing, if I wasn't actually going to practice for a specific, whatever, sport I was playing at that time, we were on the dead end with Kevin, Chris, Mike Mayon, you name it, Montanelli. We were on that dead end, and we were playing whatever sport was up for the day.
Good deal. All right, now, tell me a little bit about when did you know you started to get good at one sport, and was that one sport baseball? Was that the one that you saw you were standing out a little bit and playing better than others?
At that time, I actually think football was
really okay.
Yeah. I mean, baseball was my thing. That was the one that was the one I always thought I was gonna play. Above and beyond, and wherever I was going to go, baseball was going to take me there.
Okay.
I always had that belief. But if I could tell you that which one I enjoyed and really thought I excelled at was football.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was just more. It was more of a feeling kind of thing. Like I just felt it, where I really thought I was just that much more into it, if I could say.
Okay. Danny, did you play quarterback at a young age, or did you play? Were you a running back or wide receiver?
I was always a running back.
Always running back.
Always a running back.
Okay, and who was the quarterback on the team that you played for? Montanelli?
Chris Jodice.
Oh, Chris Jodice was. See, okay.
Chris Jodice.
All right. Well, you grew up with some great characters there. That's for sure. So, all right. And then how did basketball come in?
So it's funny. So basketball was more like I said, it was. I just enjoyed playing. I was very competitive, and myself, Kevin Callett, Chris Joe, we grew up playing. They played basketball, so I started playing basketball. But if I tell you a funny story, when I first started playing basketball, I was the kid that didn't get in until the last 2 minutes unless we were blowing a team.
Is that true, really?
That is 100% true.
Oh my God! So you were a bench warmer in basketball, huh?
So when I started at a young age playing basketball, I was the one sitting at the end of the bench hoping that we were blowing a team out or that they were blowing us out so I could get in the game.
I'll be damned.
And I used to get the last 2 minutes, or if I got lucky enough, I was actually and Kevin Collick's dad, Bill Callard,
right,
the coach at the time. He always makes fun of me until this day, where he would say, like, if we needed a foul, you bring Danny into it, and he'd make sure he'd get the foul.
Okay.
That was my football thing. I was the big hitter, so they were like, all right, we need a foul. Let's put Danny in, and I would push the kid into the stand and be like, Danny, you can't foul like that. So that was me growing up initially in basketball.
Wow, so you really improved tremendously over your high school days. Because by the time you were a senior, you were very good. But
yeah, so I would say it didn't start turning around for me basketball till about 7th or 8th grade year.
Okay.
My dad had bought me a hoop we put in the backyard. And me being the competitive person that I am, because I was competitive in everything, I would invite the point guard and one of the other players at the time. I don't know if you remember Tito Veras and Jason Bozio. They lived around the corner from me, so I would invite them over to play in the backyard because I knew that was the only way I was going to get better. If they just dominated me all day until I just got better. And so that's what I would do. They'd come over every day and play basketball in the backyard, and then unfortunately it took an injury to one of the kids on the starting five to go down for me to get a chance to play, and then from there it was never looking back.
Okay, and you didn't get a chance to play for Brian Long, did you? Was he already gone?
No, I did not. No, Brian Long was I had Jake McNish from day one.
Yeah, I was all you McNish the whole time.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So anyway, let's now go back to say 7th grade. Was that when you started to first realize that, okay, I could play this baseball game pretty well, and that maybe something I should pursue longer? Or did you not have an idea of what you were better at than the other sports back then in 7th grade?
No, I just played them all. That was one of the conversations I always had with my dad. He's like, hey, you want to stick to one? And he didn't flinch. He's like, you play everything you want. I didn't know what. It was still an experimental point where I was getting better at basketball. I was really starting to play football at a higher level. Baseball was up there. Soccer was kind of dying out for me, where I was no longer playing in North Bergen. So soccer was more of, hey, am I going to play in high school or not? I was doing some indoor stuff with my dad, but we would do like an indoor tournaments, like a Weehawken rec type thing, like an AAU travel team.
Yeah.
Where we play over at Hudson Catholic against like the Juventus team and stuff. But that was the extent of where soccer was going. So I wasn't really sure because my dad still had it in his head that soccer was going to be the thing for me.
Okay.
It was his thing in college, but I wasn't sure. I just enjoyed playing everything, so I didn't really think about it. I was just going along with it. I was enjoying my time, and that's kind of the route I was taking. I'm going to play everything I can.
Okay. All right. So by 7th grade, I think people in Hudson County started to realize how good of a baseball player you were, and you don't remember that at all. But people like, did you play for? You played for some all-star teams. You played for, as a matter of fact, I think you were juggling 3 different baseball teams in the summertime when you were that age.
I was playing in Hoboken, so I did the Sandy Koufax, the Dale Murphy, the Connie Mack in Hoboken. At the same time, I was playing the West New York Legion.
Right.
And then we were playing with the Weehawken travel team as well, like the Senior Babe Ruth and the travel teams and stuff as well. So yeah, I was.
So in the summertime, you were basically playing for like 6 different baseball teams. Is that correct?
And it was baseball, every summer. For sure, baseball was the team that I was. The sport that I was definitely more involved in. Where that was all right. Summertime's coming. It's baseball time.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
And you were good at it. You were not throwing any water on you, but you were a very good baseball player and against older competition from the time, like I said, when you were like in 7th grade is when I first noticed you. And then Colasurdo told me, he said, yeah, guess what? He's only in 7th grade. I said, what? And then I remember that's what stood out in my mind. I remember you more than Callard and Jodice even. So, but then. by the time you got to high school, I already knew who you were. I was ready for to see how good you were going to turn out to be. And I didn't even know. At that point, I didn't even know what your plans were for soccer and football. And I guess that we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah, how tough of a decision was that for you to give up playing soccer, where you, I think, as a junior or sophomore, one of those 2 years, you had over 30 goals.
So.
All right, explain. Go ahead.
So I was very small at that time. So freshman, sophomore year, I mean, Kevin, Chris, they had blown up. They had growth spurts. They were, I could tell you the story where I was the center on the freshman team in basketball at one point.
You were
actually the listed center.
My God.
I was covering the center on every team, and I remember.
That's because Khaled couldn't defend anybody.
No, that's because I was taller than him.
You're hooker.
So what happened was, I remember, so basketball was over that year. We started going into the summer. We always went to Wildwood, and I saw Kevin at the hotel where we normally all get our rooms, and he's at the hot dog stand that's right outside. And I'm like, who is this kid? He was like 6'2", and it's Kevin standing at the hot dog stand. He just grew 6 inches in like 2 months.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Where's my growth spurt?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that. So I was always very small.
Okay.
I was skinny. I was small, short, but I was fast. That was what.
Without question.
That's where I kind of had the advantage, but it was.
So was it a choice of saying, okay, I want to get a chance to play with my friends Khaled and Joe Dice? I'm not going to get a chance if I play soccer, and obviously the football team was a lot better than the soccer team was too. I don't know if that had played anything in the decision, but it must have been a really tough decision for you to make, Danny, to pick one over the other.
There was a lot of moving parts to that, because believe it or not, our soccer team was actually better than our football team at the time.
Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, so we had actually just come off a loss in the state sectionals to I forgot the Jersey City team. We had lost in penalties.
McNair.
It was McNair. Yes,
yeah.
We had lost to McNair 2-1 in penalties in the sectionals that year. So we were coming off a big year. But so was football. Football had made their first playoff, but we were actually historically in the 2 years that I was there, we were actually the better team, to say on paper, record-wise, and what we had accomplished. Soccer was actually doing better.
Wow. And who was the soccer coach then?
It was Tim Gordon.
Oh, right, Tim Gordon. Jeez, my mistake.
Yeah. Tim Gordon.
Oh, so he had some great years then. There's no question. But
yeah, we had some. So but it was that year, like the freshman year, because my cousins were playing as well. My cousin was older than me. He was 2 years older than me.
And who's your cousin?
Andres Jarmillo.
Okay, yeah, sure. All right.
So he was older than me, and he was playing. So it made sense, give my dad's dreams an opportunity as well. And I couldn't say they weren't my dreams, because soccer was always part of me as well, as you can see. So I gave it a chance. I said, you know what? Let's go with the soccer. This is where my family is. This is where some of my friends. Although Chris and Kevin were playing football.
Right. Or
they weren't playing at the time, actually. They decided not to play. So they weren't actually playing football those 2 years. So I was like, all right, I'll play soccer.
Okay.
And then sophomore year's over, and I remember Anthony Stratton. He shows up to my house with a football and a playbook.
Guess what, son? You're going to be the quarterback.
A helmet and a playbook. I bought a helmet and a playbook. And he says, hey, I'm going up down the shore now. Kevin and Chris are up there. They're already in. They're going to play. It's up to you now. What do you want to do? So now he throws that on me, where he throws, my lifelong friends, my competitive friends, the ones that we push each other in every sport possible. We played it together. We play every day on the dead end. It's like, all right, they're playing now. Now,
both of them were great. Both of them were very good athletes. Kevin played college baseball at St. Peter's College, and Jonesy could have played if he knew what a book was. He could have played wherever he wanted to, but he ended up going to the military. But he was just as talented. The three together were scary. I don't know if a town's ever going to get three guys in the same age group that did as well as you guys did. So
and that's what kind of made it what it was. Now that you look back, like I don't think without those those two guys and some others that I can say that I would have had the high school career that I had, because the competition is what made us always stand out. We wanted to be better than each other, so we were always pushing each other. That was a big thing. And having those guys there with me playing all those sports which kind of made it that much better.
Okay.
And I can't say that it would have been the same if they weren't there.
Really?
Yeah, I can't say that it would have been the same because, like I said, and I'll get into a different story on not necessarily regrets, but where I feel like I kind of didn't do as good as I could have or done as well, and the fact that got me through what I got through as far as all those sports was the competition with those guys.
Okay.
Whether it was in the classroom, because even, I remember racing Kevin and who can finish the math homework quicker. Like, it went down to every possible thing you can imagine.
Well, let's put it this way. If we're doing a grade competition, it would have been Callard 1 and Lopez 2 and bringing up the rear would be Jodice, because he don't know what a book was, and he'll be the first one to admit it today, to this day, too. So anyway.
And believe it or not, when it comes to math now, he's the one we would go to.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's a big statistician.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I should keep that in mind. That maybe you can learn things after you hit 40.
Yeah,
So I'm only kidding. Not 40. Yeah.
At the time, it was just sports. Sports was our thing.
That's it. All right. So how much fun was that for you to play all three sports with your closest friends, and to have as dominant of a senior year that you guys had in those three sports as well? You guys were great.
Oh, it was unbelievable. Absolutely. I just think about it now, having gone to college and played. You just miss that part of, like, it was more than just I want to be better than you. There was a camaraderie there. We played every sport together since we were 3. Our parents coached. I played for my dad as well as I played for Kevin's dad and Chris's dad.
Okay.
So we always had it was a bond that you can't ever take away from us.
And still today, you still guys
still to this day.
Still very close.
They were both at my wedding. Like, it's just it's a bond that we'll have for life. Nothing's gonna take that away. Those are the good memories of playing sports and living in Weehawken and still living in Weehawken. Those are the good memories, and that's something no one will ever be able to take.
That's great. All right, well, we're going to talk about some of your Weehawken coaches, and we're going to talk a little bit about your experiences with Weehawken and how you ended up going to Seton Hall, and we'll talk a little bit about Seton Hall as well. But that'll be when we come back after this message from Stan Sports Center, which they have a new message for this week's podcast. So I'm now it's something they're introducing on the podcast this week for the first time. And I know that you've probably been in Stan Sports Center, well, maybe more than once in your life. What do you think?
More than once.
Yeah. All right. Introducing Stan's Manufacturing, a subsidiary of Stan Sports Center, which has serviced the Hoboken community and surrounding areas since 1946. Stan's is your local authorized team dealer and full-service sporting good vendor. Family-owned and operated with a warehouse location now located in Boonton, New Jersey. Stan's is a one-stop shop for all your team's needs, from varsity jackets and uniforms to custom online stores and equipment. Now featuring in-house screen printing and embroidery. And that's Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And if you call and you talk to either Danny or Lou or oh God, I'm drawing a blank, Todd, my friends down at Stan's, and tell them that you listen to the Hudson County Sports Podcast with Danny Lopez, you get 10% off on anything that's retail in the store. Not a bad deal. 10% off by just mentioning the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And they might even throw in an extra nickel or two if you mention Danny Lopez's name. So, that's Stan Sports Center. Proud to be our corporate sponsor with a new thing this week. Stan's Manufacturing. Gotta like it. Okay, we're now back with Danny, and talk a little bit about how was it to play those sports all like go from one to the other and have success in all three sports like you did your senior year. What was that like? That must have been like you must have been feel like you were living a dream.
That's probably the best way to describe it. It was surreal. Uh, the amount of work and just nonstop, and especially just being in town now and just seeing how the sports teams and they operate. You don't see that where it was, you're at practice, you're playing, and then when you're done, you're at the schoolyard playing stickball or what. You just don't see it anymore, and I think that's.
Just don't let Calicerto catch you throwing fast pitch stickball against the wall, though. He didn't mind you playing, bounce pitch stickball, but don't throw none of that fast pitch stuff against the wall. He'd go nuts if you saw that playing that.
It didn't matter for me
because you weren't pitching, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to be one. Yeah. I tried to ask him a million times that I wanted to pitch, but
smart move.
That just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
That just wasn't my thing.
I know, smart move to keep you off the mound, but you can't say both Jonesy and Caller were great pitchers.
I wore one or two off Callard's 90 plus.
Oh, you did? Oh, he hit you?
He always hits me.
No, that's not good.
He me back from when I threw a slider.
He ain't throwing 90 plus anymore though. Hey,
listen, if there's one enigma or what, I don't even know what word to use to describe him. He's probably as athletic as any person I've ever met, where he can probably get on a mound right now and throw 90 plus without warming up.
Get out! Really? Serious?
He's just something unexplainable when it comes to describing an athletic person.
Yeah. See, and you would think
him right now, and you would say no shot.
Yeah, you would think that of the three, he was the least athletic of the three, and that's saying,
At him, right? And he'll probably show up right now and run a 6.960.
Oh, you're kidding? Really? Okay.
I mean, he's just capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Looking at his body type now.
Yeah, no. They're talking about his body type, and he's rivaling me when it comes to body type now, and I'm not running no 6.960.
And whatnot, but he's just that athletic. Like all three of us were.
Okay.
Like someone would look at me when I was in high school and say, "No, you can't dunk." And yeah.
Oh yeah, you could dunk. You could do a lot.
So it was like we just had that, and like I mentioned it before, playing every single sport with these guys and some other guys as well. It was just easy.
So that Danny, did you think that playing all three sports and with Joe Dice and Callard made you a better athlete in all three sports? Did you become 1,000%? Okay. 1,000%.
1,000%. Because, like I said, the one thing that got me to where I was or where I am was my competitive nature. And if I didn't have those guys pushing me, and the perfect example is basketball. I was the kid sitting at the end of the bench. I didn't, Kevin played, Chris played. They were basketball players. I was the kid at the end of the bench who played every other sport at a high level, and I never shot a basketball, or I never understood the game for what it was other than going to Gregory Park and shooting a few hoops once in a while. And then those guys wanting to be, at their level and playing with them and learning from them, that's what made me better. We learned from each other in every sport.
Well, something clicked there, because by the time you were a junior in high school, you were a hell of a basketball player, and a lot of fun to watch all three of you play, because the ball would go up and down the court. There was no slow down offense in Weehawken back then. Everything was quick.
It was fast, full court press.
Oh, it was fun to watch. There's no question, it was fun.
And I knew my place.
Yeah, but you were no sitting at the end of the bench though. At that point, you were doing it all. So who are you kidding?
At that point, I knew that my strength was my speed, so I played defense on the point guard, whoever it was, and that's where I tried to shut him down. And if I got my points, it was off breakaway layups, but I wasn't the guy pulling up and shooting threes. That was Chris's job.
Yep.
So, I knew my place. I knew we each can trust each other in doing what we had to do, and that's what made it easy. Is that I knew I didn't have to do his job. I could just worry about doing my job better.
Okay.
And that's kind of what pushed us to be able to excel in every sport was, we had that trust in each other that I can focus on, doing what I needed to do at a higher level and not try to because I caught myself doing that a lot. Was I try to pick up for someone else or try to, and it takes a toll, and it changes the dynamic of the game, and having those guys to trust along with the other guys that I played with was definitely making those transitions from each sport to each sport each season that much easier, that much more fun. And it allowed us to just enjoy it and just be good.
Okay, Danny, talk about the idea of being the three-sport athlete. Do you think that's a lost art in today? Compared to what it was when all three were playing all three, and you dominating in all three. So I mean, but do you think it's a lost art? And why do you think kids don't want to play as many sports as they did when you were playing?
So it's definitely a lost art in the sense that forget about playing three sports. I feel like a lot of just sports in general are losing interest. Most of our regular sports can't even be filled. They can't even fill a full team. You're mixing with other towns to try to get a rec program going. So I think it's gone even more so than not being able to play multiple sports. And I think a lot of it has to do with specifically that is the amount of attention kids are putting in sports itself. It's just not there. You don't see the schoolyards filled with kids playing on the weekends. You don't see the dead ends. There's nobody outside. It's like video games has taken over.
Yeah, you're so right, and I don't understand it. I really don't. But I understand that the pandemic certainly had an influence because kids had to stay indoors. But
Absolutely.
now the lesson's up. And I don't see kids playing ball anywhere, and it's a shame. And little leagues.
It is a shame because you still have, the 2 or 3 kids that are, they were tremendous athletes growing up, like little Pop Warner and stuff like that, and they just don't have the opportunity here to do that.
Yep.
They don't have the opportunity to say, I'm going to play basketball, football, soccer, because they know they got to go play, soccer somewhere else or football somewhere else, or they got to go play baseball in Union City. You're playing with kids you don't know, and it makes it harder. It makes it less attractive for kids who may not have that ability to say, you know what, I'm going to go play with people that I don't know, because there's a lot of kids that socially nowadays are different. So it's definitely a lost art. I can't wait to see it back. But
I would hope to see it come back, but it's going to be it's really hard. There's no question to have that happen. All right, so I mean, looking back, you playing the three and doing as well as you did in all three sports, could you have imagined that you could have such a great senior year as you did in the three sports and playing as well as you did?
I really wish I would have had a better senior year in baseball.
Okay.
That was the one where I kind of stride. That's where the negative aspect of playing multiple sports comes into play, and I felt in my senior year where I was kind of nursing little injuries here and there, whether it was turf toe from football or, ankles issues from basketball, where you kind of feel it. So, yeah, I might have struggled a little bit my senior year in baseball, and I didn't do as well as I could have. But I could definitely say senior year, everything kind of culminated, all came together into a very special year as a whole for Weehawken, for sure.
Yep, and individually, you became the first athlete in the history of Weehawken to win the Hudson Reporter Male Athlete of the Year 2004, which
that's special.
And which was mind-boggling when you consider the fact that you were and may be the last one to letter in 4 varsity sports at Weehawken. You did play varsity soccer, then you changed over and you played football. You played baseball all 4 years. I don't think you played varsity from the minute you stepped on the field, and you played basketball as well. That was probably of the 4, I would say it's probably the one that you had the least amount of success in, and yet you still made all league. So I mean it's just a great high school athlete. So. All right, talk a little bit about how does Seton Hall get into the equation for you to play baseball there, and how much did they recruit you, and what was the process there? Talk.
So Seton Hall came into actually was the second school to come into play. St. Peter's was the first that had officially come in.
With Bruce Sabatini was the coach then?
Walsh was there.
Oh wow, Jimmy Walsh. Okay, well, that makes sense.
Walsh was there. I remember Jimmy Walsh coming to talk to me and say, "Hey, want to play at St. Peter's? You can play football, you can play baseball. We'll take you here. You can play both sports, full scholarship, whole nine.
Okay.
That was the offer right off the table, and it looked like it was going to be the one because I couldn't see. I was deciding.
And playing well. I think Jodice was considering St. Peter's at that time, but I don't think he was getting in. But Callard went there. So
that was the other thing. Callard was going there. Jodice was offered as well. He ended up going to St. Peter's because I remember playing him. I played him at Seton Hall St. Peter's. He was the shortstop there.
Oh, really? Okay.
So he ended up going to St. Peter's. You had some other guys that were there, like Reverend Rodriguez.
Right.
Chris Hernandez ended up going there.
That's right.
He was playing baseball. So the offer was there for St. Peter's for me to go play not only with my friends and continue that aspect of it, but I was going to be able to play two sports. I wasn't going to be faced with the decision of whether I wanted to play football, because at the time, believe it or not, I was torn whether I wanted to go play football or baseball in college.
Really?
I was torn. I had actually gone out to Sacred Heart for football, the football side of it. I had gone out for a visit out there, Marist in Poughkeepsie. So I was looking at my options both ways, and it didn't start to.
And those schools didn't want you for baseball?
Marist did.
Oh, okay.
But the Sacred Heart one was strictly for football.
Wow.
Stratton had sent over like my highlight film and stuff like that. They had looked over my football, so they had sent me over on a visit there to see if I wanted to go play football. So my two football offers really were Sacred Heart and St. Peter's. That was kind of like if I was going to play football, those were the schools that I was going to have an option to go play football there. Now for baseball, Seton Hall had shown up to my Coach Shepard had been at my games for when I was playing Legion.
Okay.
West New York. So under the Nagurka brothers, I was playing at Legion, and I remember that was the first time that I had seen them there, and they had spoken to me after the game that they were interested. So that would be my junior year in high school. That would have been my junior year in high school, and they ended up showing up to so many games as far as like my senior year in high school, to the point where they had actually given me a coach's number at the Bergen Beach Athletics. So out in I believe it was Brooklyn or the Bronx. I think it was the Bronx.
Okay.
Where it was the Bergen Beach Athletics to go and play with some of the top recruits in the country. So we had guys that were on, Gil Zayas was there.
Okay. Well, Gil Zayas went to St. John's,
So he ended up going to St. John's, but this team was that summer leading up to our college career. So it was right after graduation. They had sent us out to this Bergen Beach team,
okay,
where you had guys that were on rides to Stanford, Florida, Auburn, you name it, all over the country, and they put us on a team there where we played some of the best competition in New York and on the Mid-Atlantic side. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, it's going to be baseball.
Okay.
This is another level of competition, and I enjoyed the fact that I didn't feel like I was the best person there, or these guys were better than me, or whatever the case was. And I was like, this is where I'm going.
It was close.
At the end, it was close.
Yeah.
When I first got there.
Oh, no, not when you first got to Seton Hall. No. Because you were about 145 pounds soaking wet. So.
Yeah, so it was like, you know what? This is the route I'm going. So, I ended up signing a letter of intent, which actually was the reason why I didn't go play in the North-South football game that I had finally made my senior year of football. Right.
You made the All-South All-Stars, All-State football game, and you couldn't play in it because you signed the letter of intent to play at Seton Hall.
Right, and I didn't want to mess up any, and I didn't know at the time what all that stuff meant or
Mm-hmm.
what it was. I was just I brought it up to them at the time, and they're like, well, if you're smart, you're not going to play in that if you plan on playing baseball. And so I did it. So, I look back at that, and I regret doing that. But, again, regret is a strong word, and I do wish I did a lot of things different, but I don't regret anything.
No.
So that's just the way it worked out.
What do you think you could have done differently there, Danny? What do you think?
One of the biggest things for me, and till this day, and I try to share with any kid that I coach, any kid that I speak with, I relied too much on my natural ability and the fact that I played every sport every single day. So just playing the sport, I go to practice, I play, and I go play stickball in the schoolyard and just continue to play. And yeah, that's great. You're honing your skills. But the one thing I never did, I was never a weight room guy. I was never a
no.
And that's one of the things I look back at now, and where I could have been in my career now or 10 years ago, or what things I could have done differently if I actually listened to the people that told me that was an important part of it.
That you had to join the gym? Yeah.
Yeah, I was never a big, like, even when I got to Seton Hall, I would like sneak out of our 6 a.m., weight room sessions.
Oh, wow.
Because I was, aside from the fact that I wasn't a morning person, now you're going to make me lift weights at 6 o'clock in the morning that I never did my entire life. It just didn't feel right. And now you look at it, it's like, wow, imagine if I would have.
Yeah, who knows?
Those injuries wouldn't have caught up to me. Maybe I could have been much more faster, stronger, etc. And that's one of the things I look back on. And my dad mentions it all the time, and my Uncle Manny. It's like, where could you have been today if you actually did those things?
No. Well, you got devastated with an injury. I think was your sophomore year going into junior year. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And didn't you have an ACL?
So that was the tricky thing. So it was my sophomore year going into my junior year.
Yep.
Where we thought it was an MCL sprain.
Okay.
So I had gotten, a bunch of MRIs, a bunch of, X-rays, the whole nine, and they couldn't figure out what it was. So I did have a mild MCL sprain at the time, and they thought maybe that's what was causing it. So I had worn a big brace my whole junior year. I had gotten cortisone shots, things to kind of get me through because it didn't appear to be anything more than that sprain.
Slowed you down tremendously, that big bulky brace. I wish there was a better brace that they could have put on you that was better.
From the bottom of my calf to the middle of my thigh.
Right.
I couldn't slide because that was the leg.
Yeah, you should. In retrospect, don't you think you should have had the surgery then? If they said it was a sprain, but that's what set you back tremendously. If you would have got the surgery and then rehab that, you probably would have had a leg that was even better than the one that you had before. No?
But that was the thing, was that it actually wasn't the sprain wasn't even that bad. So in my head, they're telling me it's not a bad sprain. Wear the brace for a little bit, and you'll be all right. And then, I make it through the rest of my career.
You were half the player, though. You could see it, wearing that brace and trying to run, and you didn't run. You almost had a gallop. You like hip hopped your way around the bases. And I used to say, "Oh God!" I used to say with the pa, I said, "Look at poor Danny's running like he's got, like he's Mickey Mantle." I got really just.
And then lo and behold, after I graduated, I go get a second opinion from the same doctor. They found me through the MRI with the contrast in it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even my MCL. I had a ruptured patella.
Oh my God.
So that was the issue, was they were trying to figure out where this pain was coming from, and they concentrated so much on the MCL and the fact that I did have signs of a sprain there that they never went or found the patella. So I had played those 2 years with a ruptured patella.
Oh my God. Oh. And that must hurt still like hell to this day. I know you've had surgery to repair it, but
I ended up having the surgery, so that was what led to when we were done. I went with Mark Pappas to try out for the Skyhawks team. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's when
Talk a little bit about that. The Sussex County Skyhawks. They played out in Augusta. Yeah.
Yeah. So our first baseman at Seton Hall, Mark Pappas, kid that I graduated with. We were done. Everything was over, and we're like, hey, we're not done playing. So they were having a workout up at Skyhawk, Sussex Skyhawks. We went out there.
Danny, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you also play for a team in the Met League? Didn't you play for?
I did not.
You did not. Oh, okay. All right. I thought there was a summer league team that you played for.
So it wasn't. So there was a. I mean, as far as when I was in college, I played for summer teams. Yeah, I was out in like the Shenandoah Valley League and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Out in Pennsylvania. Oh, but no, Virginia, right?
No, that's Virginia. That's that whole Shenandoah Valley. So
that's a great league.
Oh, it was awesome. That was one of the best experiences. I recommend any young kid who's trying to go play in college or is playing.
And did you have to stay with a host family?
Yep.
Yeah.
I stayed with a host family in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but you must have been a joy with those people. Must have loved having you. You clean up after yourself, and
they would always say like, "Oh, this New Yorker, come here, say you."
And they love that, right?
They loved our accent for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, talk a little bit about now your career at Seton Hall, and you say you had no regrets, but you really didn't get a chance to have a full healthy year, correct? And does that come back and bite you because when you had your chance to play, you weren't healthy to play?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I when I first got to Seton Hall, I was told right off the bat when I signed the letter of intent, and the whole thing was you're probably not going to play till your junior year. We have all Big East, all state NJ. I forgot the NJSA or whatever it's called.
Yep.
2 outfielders that are there. You're probably not going to play till your junior year. If you're okay with that, we'd love to have you, the whole nine. I said, you know what? In my head, I'm thinking that doesn't matter. I'm gonna get out there.
Right.
So
wasn't there also talk at first of changing your position because there was a load of outfielders, so they were talking about making you a second baseman. You said, "Yeah, I can play second base. Just put a bat in my hands." Right? You're like, was that true?
For me, at the beginning, I mean, you know me, I'll play whatever position you put me at. But believe it or not, they actually had to move catchers into the outfield because we started losing guys left and right.
Oh, okay, all right. I knew there was some story going around that that you were like they were trying to move you into becoming an infielder, and you were like, I don't care, just play. Just put the bat in my hands.
That's all I wanted. But no, I was actually never offered an infield spot.
Oh wow, okay. Well. When we get to our next lifetime, that's one of the first things I'm gonna ask Shep. I'm gonna say, Shep, why in the world didn't you play Danny Lopez more? What the hell's that all about?
You know what's crazy though, but it actually turned out where I was thinking I wasn't gonna play till my junior year, and midway through my freshman season, I took the starting spot from the all-state center fielder, and that was it.
Yeah.
He ended up transferring out.
And he left.
He went to Monmouth. He ended up leaving, and it was my spot.
Yeah, good, and you did it, and you took the ball and you ran. Who cares,
Yeah, it was definitely a good time.
It was
definitely a good time. Being a Hudson County kid, though, you got to work twice as hard.
That's right. You got that stigma.
We got that stigma, and it didn't work too much in my favor. Where I showed up to school and I didn't know that we were supposed to go up and look at the boards by the office, and that baseball started in August, and it was like I missed the first meeting because I didn't know. So I kind of played the stigma right off the bat.
Yeah.
I had to work twice as hard to get my spot back, but it was fun. Seton Hall was a good time.
I can imagine, and good baseball people. Shep and Rob was there. Rob was probably there with you, right?
And Rob was there. Yeah. Duffy was there. Kadari was there.
And was Blank there too? Was Eddie Blankmeyer there, or
so Blankmeyer was at St. John's.
Oh, he already left to go to St. John's. Okay.
So he was already at St. John's, so I had gone there for a visit too. Before I had committed to Seton Hall, I had gone to St. John's under Blankmeyer, and he had told me the same thing. Hey, you're not going to play until your junior year. So that was something I kept hearing, and it was like, that's not going to happen.
And you said Gil Zayas was already at St. John's at that point in his vagabond, wherever the hell he. I mean, the kid went to more colleges than I've been to, KFCs, but no, don't get me wrong. Gil's a great guy and a great friend, and he had a great high school career as well. So, but I'm saying that wasn't he at St. John's at the time that they were recruiting you? No.
No, we went to college at the same time. So he ended up going to.
Oh, he went up to go.
St. John's the year that I went to Seton Hall, so we played each other for 4 years.
Oh wow, okay, but didn't he go like some junior college first, and then he ended up there, and then he ended up going to St. John's? No.
No, he was not that. From what I remember,
maybe it was his brother.
Yeah, Gianni might have been.
Yeah.
Might have been around before he ended up at NC State and stuff. Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, once they found out he threw 94, it was like, hello.
Gianni was probably around, but Gil was definitely St. John's the 4 years that I was at Seton Hall.
Okay, Gil, if you're listening to this, I wholeheartedly apologize, but he's one of my all-time favorites. So okay, so now after your college baseball career is over, there was talk. You said playing for the Sussex Skyhawks. Was there? And then you were injured at that time, and you couldn't play for it.
So I was still on the same injury because we still didn't know that it was a ruptured patella. So I was still, I just finished my senior year, wearing the whole brace, the whole nine, and obviously I didn't want that to be the end.
Right.
So myself and Mark Pappas, we decided, hey, they're holding a workout, let's go up there. And it didn't work out for me. And I went and got a second opinion at that time, and that's when they found the ruptured patella. So I ended up getting surgery, and that was kind of like it for my baseball career.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what did you start to do after that? Did you get involved with coaching kids? Did you always want? Yeah. All right. Go ahead. Talk to us about that.
So after that, I had gotten a job in the city for finance, which is what I had graduated from. I was there for about a year or so when Cirillo, who was my coach at Weehawken for a bit with Stratton,
right?
He went to Palisades Park, had reached out to me, and he wanted me to coach out there at Palisades Park.
Okay.
So I ended up taking the position. I ended up coaching Palisades Park, the varsity baseball team there for a few years.
I did not know that. How many years was it, Rev?
So I believe it was 3.
Oh wow, okay. Good people at Pal Park.
Yeah, and at the same
John
time,
Robolowski's what a wonderful man.
John Robolowski,
wonderful man.
So at the same time that I was coaching baseball there, I was coaching basketball with Jake McNish here in Weehawken.
That I knew.
So I was doing the JV team there, and helping out with the varsity with Jake and doing the baseball up in Palisades Park. So I did that for a little bit until career changes and I left, and that's been it for me as far as sports.
All right, so talk a little bit about how much fun did you have coaching?
It was a different world. It's tough doing it so quick out of playing yourself because I wanted to get out there and play every day, and I wanted to be the one out there on the field.
Right.
And I kind of approached that way. I approached the players that way, and like I was one of the guys. I was one of the players because I was just so shortly removed from the game, and I still had that fire for the game.
Right.
So I played more that aspect of coaching to the extent of I want them to know everything that is going on in my brain every moment of the game, every pitch. So I kind of played that aspect of it. And it worked out well. I had a really good bond with a lot of the kids there. I still speak to a lot of them now today.
Okay.
They reach out to me, but that was a little difficult for me because I wanted to be the guy going up to the plate. I wanted to be the guy running the bases.
Yep.
At the same time that I was coaching these kids, so it was hard in the sense of that, but it definitely gave me a better approach, a better relationship with the guys, more of a player coach kind of deal.
Okay.
And it was fun. It was fun. We did well. The kids really, really responded. And like I said, I still have relationships with them to this day.
Well, maybe there's a chance that we might get you back coaching someplace, right?
I would hope so. I mean, I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it.
Well, high school sports need somebody like you, Danny. There's no question. And one last thing two last things for me. First thing is, what was it like when you got? I probably asked you way back when because it's been a long time ago, 2004. But what was that like when to get news that you were being named the top athlete in all of Hudson County?
So it was funny because I had been approached by like Jake and Stratton and Calcerno, and everybody was like telling me, yeah, we spoke about you to Jim, and we gave him this, and this is what's happening. And at the time, I didn't really know because the awards and stuff it wasn't that Weehawken didn't receive many of them, but we weren't used to it.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't something that we were used to. Like, we saw you in the building a lot doing, weekly stories. I remember with Fernando Fuentes and stuff, and I remember seeing you for the first time. It just wasn't used to it, so it didn't really hit me right away of what exactly was going on.
Okay.
But definitely now, I know my dad saved everything. He's got every newspaper clipping that you ever wrote.
But the idea of being the number one athlete in all around athlete in all of Hudson County, that's got to be a little awe-inspiring, doesn't it?
It was because I didn't know until I remember walking into the Models on 60th and Bergen Line, and I remember seeing my photo, that picture from the newspaper clipping pasted right onto the front door.
Oh, really?
And that's kind of when it hit me, like, oh wow, this is a big deal.
It's a real deal. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not in Weehawken anymore. I'm in West New York, and they're talking about me. That's kind of where it hit me. Yeah.
All over the place. There's no question. Okay. Now you got to tell me. first of all, how old are you now? Second of all, do you have a family? And where? And third of all, where are you living?
So I'm still living in Weehawken.
Okay.
I'm still in the same house that I grew up in.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'm 35 years old now.
Boy, time flies.
I just got married.
Congratulations.
November, thank you.
Local girl?
North Bergen. She was a North Bergen basketball player.
What's her name?
Luisa Castano.
Oh, I remember her. Sure. Okay.
She was a basketball player in North Bergen. So yeah, that's my wife now, and hopefully family soon one day.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Well, you're still young enough. There's no question. And how much does it mean to you to still be good friends with your boys Callett and Joe Dice?
That's like the ultimate gift at the end. Now that you look back, yeah, playing sports was great. Winning awards was awesome. It's things that I'll be able to share with my family. It's things that I'll always be able to talk about. But the one thing that we always have is our relationships and our friendships. And that, even though my baseball career is done, and basketball and football, I won't be stepping on a field again. I still make that call, on a Sunday 10 o'clock to one of my buddies, and they're answering the phone and we're talking about stuff. So that's one thing you don't lose.
And
that's the best.
And you can't put a price tag. Can't put a price tag on it at all. Okay, so what's your wife's name? You didn't even mention your wife's name. What's her name?
Yeah, Luisa Castano.
Luisa Castano. Okay. Oh, you did, and you said she played basketball at North Bergen, right?
Yeah, she played at North Bergen. She also did track.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Danny, it's been my pleasure to have you as the guest on the podcast, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. And I wish you all the best in the future. And please, let's keep in touch.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you so much. It was an honor, and I'm glad you're still doing this. The kids in Hudson County need you.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna keep trying. There's no question. So, Danny, thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take care. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. You too.
All right.
And that was my special guest, Danny Lopez, who was the Hudson County Athlete of the Year in 2004 out of Weehawken High School, where he earned 4 varsity letters. Soccer, basketball, baseball, football. Pretty impressive athlete. Danny Lopez from Weehawken, my guest this week. My special thanks to my executive producer, Johnny Hayes, who is, he's the reason why this podcast keeps going. So every time I need something, I get on a holler, and he takes care of it, and he does a great job as the executive producer. So, again, the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people at Stand Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. The telephone there is 201-798-4466. My name is Jim Haig. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's Hudson County Sports Podcast, and we'll have another one next week. Thanks so much, and happy holidays!